Welcome to the Redefining Real Estate Live. I am here with Tom Storey today. Super excited. This is actually like a secondary redo because we were just talking for 10 minutes or more, and we realized that we were not live. So super excited to have Tom on. My name is Michelle Ellis, realtor and owner at eXp Realty. I do believe in world-class relationships and world-class education, and this is kind of what I want to bring to the industry. I believe that you don't have to be with a specific brokerage or brand in order to feel good about sharing your success with other realtors and helping each other out. So Tom is a superstar realtor. He works in the core of downtown Toronto. Lots of experience. I think he's been in the business for 9 years. So Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your story, how you got into real estate?
Sure.
Just tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I think it's great that you're going to be one of the voices now moving forward for education and getting our industry and just like raising the bar, right? Because you look at everything going on right now, whether it's a CBC Marketplace report or the comments on some platforms, it's like the general consensus of our industry maybe isn't as high as it should be. That's probably a nice way to put it, right? And one of the things that I had never really thought about, and that's why I'm so excited to chat with you today, is like I was talking with Taylor Hack about this, and the stat that everyone throws out is like only 2 out of 10 realtors make it past their first 2 years. That's the one we typically hear. Yep. The one I had never heard was only 13% make it to 5 years.
Really? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. So Taylor told me that. So then what we started talking about was like, all right, so for a moment, let's look at the industry as a whole and be like, how can we better ourselves? How can we get better? Right. How can we create a better experience for the consumer? Well, if the consumer is working with someone that doesn't make it to 5 years, which if they're in that zone, the chances are only 13% to keep going.
Right. Mm-hmm. Then for their future purchases and stuff, right?
Yeah. Then what they are essentially working with is a tourist, someone that won't be around for a while. Someone's just here for a short period of time and then they're gone. They're not working with an industry expert. And again, that's not saying that if you're in your first 5 years, you're not awesome at your job.
Right.
That is the consumer's maybe outlook on the industry, just mathematically.
Right.
So how can we create a better experience for the consumer? So I thought that was really interesting, is like, let's make sure that we are not tourists, right? We're here for a while. We're going to stick around. And I'm sure you've noticed this as well. Sometimes I'll get listings and I'll ask, I'm like, why didn't you hire the agent that helped you buy the house?
Right.
You're like, oh, they don't actually do much business, or they're not in the business anymore, or they just didn't.
I don't even know who it was. Right?
Crazy, right? Like, isn't that crazy?
I think there's a stat on that too. Now, I don't know what the percentage is, but I have read over a stat saying like I want to say it's like in the 80s or something % of people don't know their realtor's name or who bought or helped them buy or sell their house. Like, I think that's crazy.
It is, because it's so simple just to be a human being and stay in touch with people and provide something that you believe is value or quality that because really, how often does someone need us? People move every 5 to 7 years.
Right.
So, some people move more, but average it out. Your job's not done when you sell them the house, right?
Exactly.
That's just like step one.
Yeah. I love that part of being a realtor, is like the lasting relationship that you have. You watch their families grow, you watch them have babies. And like, I mean, I've only been in it for 8 years, but I have seen, a family or a couple go from a non-married couple to a married couple to now a couple with 2 little girls and 1 on the way. Like, it's so cool to just be part of, not necessarily part of their story, but part of their life in a way, which is kind of, for me, that's what I love about it. And it's funny because one time I have a client that, you keep in touch with, and they just thought it was like the weirdest thing. And they were like, why are you still talking to us? And I'm like, she's like, what do you want from me? And I was like, I don't want anything. I just want a cool relationship with you. Like, cause I do a pie giveaway every Thanksgiving. And I was like, just let me know if you want a pie. And she's like, but what do you want from me? Like, why are you giving me a pie? Like, she just could not get past the transactional portion of, a real estate agent. And I'm like, no, I'm different. Like, this is just who I am. I'm more on the relationship side than just wanting to sell you a house and never talk to you again. That's not really what I'm interested in. So
what I found too is my kind of, the first time that I'll meet with someone that I haven't worked with before on the buying or selling side, is the first question I'll ask them is just like, why am I here?
right.
Like, what do I actually need to know about what's going on with your situation? And then the second thing is that I'll say to them every single time is like, 90% of my business is word of mouth. So I don't use the word repeat and referral with clients because that's kind of industry talk.
Right.
90% of my business is word of mouth. My goal today is to tell you everything that I would want to know if I was in your situation. I rarely do I even bring the paperwork, to be honest with you. Like I just go and talk to them.
Right.
And
me too.
And all I want to do is such a good job for you that at the end of you working with me, you want to tell your friends and family about me, right? Like that's it. There's no spiel here. There's no sales pitch. I want to knock it out of the park. And this isn't like some weekend hustle for me. Like I'm borderline obsessed with it. And I know as year 9 now, that when I do 3, 4, 5, 6 transactions with the same person over that period of time, or they refer me to their friends and their family, I'd only still be in business if I actually did what I said I was going to do.
That's right.
So that alone, and honestly, when you have that conversation with someone off the bat, it's almost like you watch their shoulders go from like,
all like
just to calming down, where it's like, listen, if you're not going to sell your house for this price, I'll tell you. If you need to do this, I'll tell you. I'll be honest with you. Because I don't know, and maybe this is part of the thing as well, where like we're so open now and sharing within the industry to other people. That a lot of that old school salesiness from at least the generation coming up now and taking over market share, I think is slowly moving away, which I think is a good thing, not only for the industry, but just for like the consumer.
Right.
Like I'm not going to sell you today. I'm here to tell you what you need to know.
And
listen to them. Like we talk so much. We're trained on what to say. Ask a question and shut up.
Exactly. It's funny because like I'm such a high energy person that I really had to like train myself to just like relax when I was with clients, because I just want to talk. And like sometimes I would literally like get out of breath because I'm just so excited and I have so much to say and ask and that kind of thing. So it's funny. You do have to really just listen to what they need and just be upfront and honest. Like there's been so many times in the last little while where they're like, is it really like a great time to sell right now? And it's like, in your specific situation, knowing all of these details, no, like you need to stay here. Like it does not make sense for you to move right now. And if you were to move, I don't want you calling me in a year or two saying like, I'm in a position where I have to sell my house and you're not in a position to be able to, reap any financial benefits or maybe even lose money. I don't know, but I don't want to be that person, right? Like I don't want to be giving them that news going like, okay, so you're going to lose money on this sale.
I mean, it's so hard to predict where things are going to go. And I think especially now with the uncertainty and like, I think we're somewhere in between the craziness and scary headlines that you see and the truth. Like, I don't think the news is totally off, but I think they're like really just building it up.
Right.
Like we're going into a time here that's uncertain. We've never seen interest rates rise at this rate. Will it put some people into very tough situations? 100%. Is the market going to come back magically next year? Probably not, honestly. Like it just mathematically doesn't make sense based on purchasing power, the stress test, where the rates are at. And the fact that so far we've had 5 rate hikes.
That's crazy.
And inflation really hasn't changed enough. Like, and maybe it's because we're increasing so rapidly that there's not enough time in between the rate hikes.
Right.
Like there's been 5 potential announcements and each one the rates went up.
And they're saying that it may not be the last one. Like the last one, they said it may not be the last one.
Well, the next one is tomorrow. It's the 26th, and odds are they go up again.
Yeah.
And so to have any clarity or understanding or any type of perceived certainty of the market, I think we need to have, okay, the rates went up, but then they didn't go up the next announcement
Mhm.
and didn't, maybe like they don't go up 2 times after they could,
Mhm.
and then wait 60 days to see how things play out.
Right.
Because nobody knows. No one could have predicted this. And all the things coming into the year that we were looking at in terms of factors about the market, we didn't know there was going to be a war.
Yep.
We didn't know there was going to be supply chain issues to the level that we had. We didn't know any of this stuff. The things that we thought we knew aren't going to be the things that impact it. It's the things that we didn't know were coming.
Yeah.
And, I think there needs to be that level of understanding is like real estate agents are not economists.
Yeah.
I do think we have a unique perspective of the actual consumer confidence,
Mhm.
because the economists, which probably are great at their job and all the news headlines,
It's a macro level. Like, it's not
and
micro.
you can tell any story you want with data.
Yeah.
You can pick this and pick this and pick this and tell any story you want.
Right.
So, I think the big thing with all this I'm saying is like, you just have to help people do what they're trying to do and try to do your best to give them the
Yep.
advice that you would give yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because if you're a transactional agent, especially in the market we're going into, like, good luck. It's going to
Yeah.
be very difficult. It's not
Yeah,
going to
you have
work.
to actually be in it to truly wanna help people, not just bang out deals and hope that, this lasts forever. Because what we did just go through was not number 1, it wasn't sustainable. Number 1, it was not realistic. It did happen, obviously, but it's not likely gonna happen ever again, and
I
if it
feel
does,
like
it's a long time away.
I feel like the last 2 years is like, it's like we only get the extremes, right?
Mhm.
It's like we get the extreme one way and we get the extreme other way in terms of how fast it cooled down,
Yep.
where we didn't really have much time in the middle to figure out what was going on.
Yep.
It's kind of like, where we live, just in terms of even the weather. It's
Mhm.
like either gets damn cold or really hot, and we have like a few months of this perfect temperature,
Right,
but
yeah.
we
Like,
get
the other
the
day, it was, like,
extreme.
so cold, and I was showing a house, and I was literally like, "I did not dress for this," and the next day, it was, like, almost 30 degrees. I'm like,
Right.
"What is happening?"
So it's weird how the market just shifts so quickly, and people's decision making is different, because the last 2 years it's like, okay, everyone leaves the city,
Mhm,
pushing up prices in certain markets. But now when they're saying, okay, year over year prices are down 30% or whatever in a certain pocket, that may be factually correct on an average sale price. But when sales are down 50% as well, and you're working with half the amount of data, it leaves
mhm.
more room for outliers,
Yeah,
which could impact the data. So again, it's like, it's not that I dismiss it. I love the numbers. Like
mm,
I talk about the numbers a lot. Um, but at the end of the day, for us, ground level, having conversations with people,
mhm,
I don't think we're going into a great economy. I think it's not going to be
right,
necessarily that good. We're going to fall off on certain things,
mhm.
but I don't think it's maybe as scary as we've been told. We'll
Well,
see.
the way we have to look at it, I think, is people are still going to continue, unfortunately, to pass away. There's
Yeah.
going to be babies born, and there's going to be divorces. Like, all of those things are a constant, right? So for us in those aspects of things, like, we're still, people are still going to outgrow their house. People are going to retire, and they're going to need a smaller house, and that kind of thing. So all the more reason to be that trusted professional that people need and can trust, right? They need somebody that they can confide in and feel. I always tell people when I go into a listing presentation and you get that famous question, so why should we pick you? And I always say, well, really, you just need to go with your gut,
Mm.
because it's whatever you feel is the best fit for you, and only you know that. So that's, and like, I've gone through so many different like script ideas of like what to say, how to say, but really for me, I'm like, it just comes down to like what your gut is feeling. Like, which one you like better than others or whatever. Some people I think are crazy. They interview like 5 agents. I'm like, that would be so confusing to me
Yeah.
to try and remember everything that each agent. So, um, let's go over to, so the way that we were introduced was through Richard Robbins, international coaching company. And I feel that coaching is one of the most important things I have ever done in real estate. It wasn't until year 3 that I got into coaching with Buffini,
Mhm.
which was great. But then I stumbled upon Richard Robbins a few years later. And what I loved about them, obviously, was that they were Canadian based. And I needed something that was more supportive in that sense and more kind of intimate. So that's where I met you. You did a presentation on your Hey Neighbor mailer, and I think it was fantastic. It actually helped me like grow my business exponentially. Now, I'm not a numbers person, so I don't know how much it made me grow, but I do know that on average, every time I would send that mailer out when I sold a property, I almost got, I think, one listing at least from every mailer that I did. So a lot of agents do feel like, it's very expensive, and it is work because you do have to design it and you have to do the, mailer part of it and Canada Post and all that stuff. But I think it's very much worth it. And I think it's too that people, when they receive that mailer, they're at home. So it's something that they resonate with. I love getting mail personally. I am like a mail lover. So I do love getting mail, but maybe go into explaining, your experience with farm mailers and how it's been successful for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, you covered a lot of it where, like, listen, it's expensive. And I think one thing that realtors aren't so great at as an industry is understanding how much money did they have to spend to create the opportunity.
Right.
Right. So, if I look at, if we earn $1, I can tell you the listings that come into me through hard mailers, right? Direct
Mhm.
mail, probably cost me 30 cents to make that dollar, which in
Right.
any other industry, you go, yeah, 100%, 30 cents for $1. I'll do that all day long, right?
Right.
But if it's $3,000 to make $10,000, it's still $3,000. And if you don't make that 10,000 the first 3 months, it's very discouraging, right?
Right. Right.
So I I couldn't have afforded to do mailers my first few years because my cost to acquire business on repeat and referral or other realtors sending me their clients coming to Toronto or strategic alliances with mortgage brokers and so forth. That was a lower cost barrier because it was time.
Hmm.
And when you get into the industry, typically have, well, not when you get in, but realtors have one or two things. They have time or they have money.
Hmm.
If you have money to spend on things, other people can do those tasks for you. If you
Right.
don't have the money, well, you have the time to do those tasks for yourself, right?
Right.
So it took me a few years, and I started off with a farming area of about 2,500, and now we're at 10,000. So
That's
we build on the system, and we see if it works, then we add to it and gradually make it bigger and bigger. And now we hit 4 specific pockets, areas that I want to sell in, that I like, that I live in, that my clients are already living in. So it's just like adding on to
Mhm.
all the other things, like a 5-prong attack. And then with this specific mailer, it's like, mostly you're getting brag pieces from people. Look at me, look what I've done.
I'm number one.
I'm number one in whatever, whatever way they want to phrase it. It's marketing, right? It's
Yeah.
that's what it is, marketing. So, if you receive a mailer with a little postcard on the back with a handwritten note saying, hey neighbor, just sold a house on your street, and it may have impacted the value of your property. Just wanted to reach out to you directly and let you know that if you have any questions, my cell phone number is below. And something casual like that. Like, I'm
Right.
paraphrasing what it actually says. And people read that and they're like, oh, this is different than just getting all the other stuff that they
Right.
immediately put into the recycling bin.
Right.
And what's been kind of cool is, like, that was probably, that presentation actually was probably one of the only ones that wasn't like somehow video focused, because that's typically what I'm known
Yes.
for.
Yep.
But it's just different. So it's like those mailers now, and since I've done that presentation, now we have these big QR codes on them. And when you scan it, it takes you to a page to book an appointment with me. So it's like
Right.
taking old school marketing and
Modernizing it.
modernizing it, right? And especially now as we move into a market where there is less opportunities, the pie is smaller. And even if you do everything right, price a property right, set the correct expectations, it can take 2 months to sell. It can
Mm-hmm.
take longer than that to sell. And even if the seller, when you first meet them, goes like, okay, no, I know this. When it gets to 3 weeks, they're still stressing out because they're thinking about what it used to be like.
Right, right. I
Um,
think that's the hardest thing that I'm dealing with right now
yeah.
is the mindset,
Your mindset or the seller's
the
mindset?
seller's mindset. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's where I kind of use numbers to my advantage.
right.
Where I really think, and I haven't seen too many people do this, and maybe I'll ask Rich about this to do a training or something. Expectation setting.
Mhm.
If realtors could get really good at setting expectations and not just being yes people, and showing how they've come to their conclusion, not just
Right.
telling it, you'd rarely have any issues, right? Then
Yeah.
if a seller's phoning you to ask what's going on, it's probably because you haven't been communicating enough,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And then sometimes even if you've been doing everything right, if it goes a week and you haven't had a showing and you're like so terrified to reach out and tell them what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, I had like my biggest listing ever like 3 years ago. It was like over $3 million. And at that price point, it's just a different ball game, right? It
Oh, yeah, for sure it is.
takes way longer. And we ended up selling it, but there was a period of time where it was uncertain if anything was going to happen. And sometimes I would just call my seller. She'd be like, hey, I'm thinking about you and your house. I think about you all the time. I'm doing everything I possibly can. I just want you to know, like, I'm not sitting on my thumbs here.
Yep.
Like, and they appreciated that. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't have an update because we haven't had a showing.
Mhm.
And then, if something sold in the area, I could show them that, or if new listings came to the market and things
Right.
like this. But just staying in constant communication and setting that expectation from the very beginning, because it used to be fairly easy. If you could get the listing,
Yep.
okay, even if you don't price it perfectly, well, the market figures it out for you. And
Yeah.
even if you're a little bit high, well, the market gets there eventually. And if you price low because you don't know what it's worth, well, the market will figure it out for you with your
Yep.
15 offers, right?
Exactly.
That's an easy conversation,
Yep.
a really easy
Um,
conversation. Today, it's not an easy conversation.
yeah, and something that I started doing for my sellers is automatically when we get listed on the market, I actually set them up on 2 different searches on
Mhm.
Matrix. So I
Yeah.
set them up on a search for the comparables of their home that just get listed and ones that sell. So I feel like I don't necessarily have time to monitor every single listing that's popping up and being sold every single day. So at least I know nothing is going to fall through the cracks. They'll be able to monitor along with me, obviously, but then me just telling them is just me just telling them. But the fact that I have a supportive email going like, hey, just want to see if you noticed, XYZ Smith Street came off the market and was sold at X amount. That's a good comparable for you guys just to keep in mind, and maybe we need to make adjustments soon, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, it's so important because in an upward trending market, it was easy just to go, okay, well, this house just sold, so that's our comparable, right?
Yep.
When there's not a lot on the market, you're not really worried about what's on market. You're only worried about what's selling, right?
Right.
And now, if we know, like, depending on the pocket, if 25% of listings are actually selling in the first month, well,
Mhm.
then it's not just what sold. Because, a sale in March didn't happen in my mind. If you're listing a property now, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter up to September, truthfully.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
hopefully
On a
you had
30
enough.
day kind of
Yeah,
thing.
you had enough sales in that. If you didn't have enough sales, you kind of got to test the market.
Mhm.
But now it's not only just what sold. It's like, well, what are the 8 other listings that are very similar to yours, and where do you rank on that list?
Yeah, do you wanna rank number 1 or top 3, or do you wanna be a bottom feeder? Like, you got to, you know?
I tell the sellers now, it's like we have to do everything within our power not to be the decoy listing. The decoy
Right.
listing is the house that they see when they also see another house, which way overpriced, and they're like, well, that didn't make sense. This one looks like a better option compared to that.
Yes,
You're
yes.
literally helping all the other properties by being overpriced.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing if it's not you, but
Yeah.
if you figure it out, because again, mathematically, right? Like if 1 in 4 properties are selling every month,
Mhm.
that's 4 months of inventory. That's a balanced out market.
Mhm.
25% of homes are selling. So if you look at a list of 10 properties, that means that the top 2.5
Right.
theoretically should sell.
Yes.
And that's based on, all the different things in which we price properties, lot size, area, all the fun stuff, right?
Right.
So now what I'm doing with sellers is like, if we go a little while where we haven't had any action, I'm saying, here's the 10. Where do you think you rank? I'm not going to come
Yeah.
say, where do you think you rank on that list?
Mm-hmm.
And that's typically when they go like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
We need to make a change here.
Yeah.
And typically, really, you can market as much as you want to as many people as you want. If it's not priced correctly, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And I do struggle with that personally. Like, I'm more than happy, and I probably spend way more on marketing than I probably should. But when they aren't taking my advice on where we need to be for a price point, sometimes I do pull back a little bit, because I'm like, I'm just throwing money out the window here, because it's not going to do anything for you. Like, it's going to do nothing.
And I think it's being a good enough communicator in our industry that if you're just like what can we show if the home's not selling, well, what are some of the reasons potentially why the home is not selling? Not enough people have seen it. The exposure is not good enough. Maybe it's not priced correctly. But if you are priced correctly, right, and you do all the things that I know you do to get properties to the market and make them look great, hosting that extra open house isn't necessarily going to sell the house, right? A price change would probably sell the property. And that's the thing too. It's like, I don't have enough confidence to look at a seller in the eye and go like, I know exactly what your property's worth.
Yeah.
Because I don't
It's
get
the buyer that determines that anyways at the end of the day.
That's
right?
it. So it's not, I think your home's worth less or whatever. It doesn't matter what I think. And really, in like saying this in the nicest way possible, it doesn't matter what the seller thinks either.
No.
It matters what the market thinks.
Yeah. The market and the buyer cumulatively, like, you have no say.
That's it, right? So hopefully you have enough recent data to come to the conclusion on where you should list. And if you don't, then you kind of got to test the market. And if you're not getting traction over a certain period of time, if it's presented correctly and you've done all the other things, then likely it's a pricing issue, right?
Yeah. 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 Because I mean, even for me personally right now, I do have a couple of listings. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the house. There's nothing more that they could do to the house to make it better. It's really essentially comes down to the price point and the activity. And I like to try and educate my clients on like, okay, let's look at this. Okay. So we've been on the market for, 21 days. We've had 3 showings. The feedback was good, but just the house wasn't suitable. Nobody really said anything great about, great price or whatever. So you want to be able to, like, I try and tell them, like, we need showings so that we can get feedback from them to get a feel for what people are thinking. Because if there is something that is a reoccurring comment or whatever, then maybe it is something we can change. We actually really don't love all the paint colors, all the wacky paint colors. Right. So like, that's something we can change, right? Like, so I try and educate them on like, okay, we have to be able to take this information and utilize it. And if we're not going to utilize it, then you have to understand that there's not going to be much change in our circumstances, and like nothing is going to happen.
You know what I would recommend all realtors do is call a real estate friend of yours in Edmonton and just ask them what they've been doing for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like right. They're very good at having these conversations because their market didn't perform really until the last 2 years. In fact, it went down. In low interest rate environments, it went down. So, Canada's a very big place, and we clump it all together in these reports and stats and whatnot. We're completely different.
Everywhere.
Toronto is different than Vancouver. It's different than Montreal. It's different than Calgary and Edmonton and Saskatchewan. And, you can go on and on. These are very different pockets.
Yeah. Yes. It's really, I think one of the key elements to when you're working with sellers is the education portion of it. If you're just upfront and honest with them and you can sit them down and say, look, you're hiring me because I am the professional. I will take into consideration your thoughts and your comments, but I want you to be able to trust me. This is what I do every day.
And it's also like, what really, I understand short term on getting the listing, the mindset that some agents have. But if you tell someone just what they want to hear, who are you helping?
Yeah,
You're not
nobody.
helping them. You're giving them a little bit of hope for a short period of time until they recognize, oh, never mind, this didn't work.
And then you look like you have no idea what you were talking about because you look like not the professional.
Right. And then you finally get enough courage to tell them what's actually going on. And again, like, you can do this in a really nice way and just be a
Yeah.
human being about it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to agree on everything. That's okay.
Yeah.
But if you're just taking listings to take listings and you're going to stage them, and then staging renewals are coming up, like, it's going to be really, really, really expensive. And that's not a
Yeah.
way to run a business.
Yeah.
Why would you? The ego side of this business is kind of hilarious to me. And
Mhm.
like, I've fallen in the trap for like the first 5 years of my career. Like, do this, trust me. There's
Yeah.
always another carrot. There's always somebody else that's going to do more than you.
Yeah.
And then what I'm terrified for some people, the trap they fall into is like, well, I just need to get this ranking or this thing, which we all know is kind of crap anyways,
Yeah.
because it's gross amount of money earned. What
Right.
other business in the world with shareholders cares about that? They care about profit.
Yeah, exactly.
Businesses are you have a business to be profitable.
Mhm.
And so that's what concerns me a little bit, is that if you got your license in the last 2 years, you're probably very wide-eyed right now.
And you need a coach.
100%. And
You
not
need
just
a
like the coach you need for the accountability and the making sure you do what you say you're going to do, but then also just like the community that it can put you in.
Mhm.
And, like, I love Rich. He's taught me everything I know. I owe a whole heck of a lot to that man. But if I think about going to conferences now, like, I like the third day when I get to speak with all the members,
Yep.
because that's
Actually,
actually where I learn the most.
when we were in Whistler, when we did the round table, I
Yeah.
took so much away from that. Like, it was so good because you're hearing people talk about what is working for them, which is why I'm doing this podcast, so that we can share like what is working, what is not working. It doesn't mean that we're right, but it's working for us, right?
And I'd
So,
say for the most part, just based on having enough examples to back it up, most of these ideas work in every market.
mhm.
So it's like, you got to get over the like, oh, I work here, this won't work here. Maybe like the exact plan doesn't work, but you can tweak it to make it
Mhm.
work for you, and just getting over that mindset thing, right? And because listen, there's going to be a lot of people in our industry that are going to struggle.
I think I was just at a conference in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and I want to say 24% of realtors, or no, it's a percentage in the next 24 months.
Sure.
Like 63% or something in the next 24 months. Again, I'm awful at numbers, are going to essentially like leave the industry, which a lot of them I think came in the last 2 years and they're stunned, obviously. And unless they get coaching and unless they have a really, really great support system and are willing to be a really great student, I don't think there's going to be much success for those realtors that just wanted that quick, fast check.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Like, I'm sure that's absolutely correct. There's going to be some type of lag though, in terms of like leaving the industry and giving up your license. I think are different things.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know if you'll see it in the licensing numbers, but I think you'll see it in like listen, this in your marketplace, you're dealing with the same group of people. How
Yeah,
often? All
yeah,
the time.
yeah,
The
yeah,
same players are doing most of the
yeah.
market share. And in a market that is more difficult and you have to
Mhm.
have harder conversations, those people are just going to take more and more of the pie.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's the 80-20 rule, right? There's 20% of us doing 80% of the deals.
Yeah, which it might even be more. Like, it
Probably.
really is. I'm dealing with the same names all the time.
Right.
So it's really interesting. And that's why I think, like, even for me, like in the last 2 months, the amount of realtors that have reached out to me asking if they can join my team is astounding. It's the most I've ever had at any given time.
Right. Because I think people they're scrounging and they want that support system. And I think teams are going to be a big thing in the next few years, right? So you can essentially just be a little family and do your thing, and we're better together anyways. So
Yep. Yeah. Because I think they survive the last little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it is not that difficult to have a good year in real estate. It's not that difficult. And then a certain percentage can have a good half decade. Then a very, very small percentage can have a consistent 10 years.
I find that's one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with, myself included, is like the consistent non-ebbs and flow business, right? Like, we do have our good seasons and our lower seasons and that kind of thing. But I think once you have a solid business foundation, you can have a predictable business, which, I mean, most people do not believe real estate could be a predictable business. But if you're doing the right things and is Bill your coach?
Bill's my coach, yeah.
Bill's my coach too. So if you do what your coach says for you to do, and I mean, then you should be pretty safe in that sense. But yeah, I think
what it is too, it's like, I can remember like year 2 or 3, I had a gap of time where I'm like, holy crap, am I ever going to sell anything again?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that feeling. I was like, I do not like this. And
Yeah.
I can say, and maybe I'm jinxing myself here, I'll knock on some wood, but like I haven't had that in the last 6 years, through good markets, through bad markets, because we had little blips here too. Like 2020, I was carrying like over 20 listings at once because condos were not moving in the pandemic. And that was stressful as hell. And I was just constantly having conversations of giving bad news.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult. And I think especially why the team structure comes back into is that there are many people that are licensed real estate agents that are very good at servicing opportunity. They're great with people. They're great at showing properties. They're lovely to work with. They give good information. They know their stuff. That's an operator. That's the person doing the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those same people are not usually very good at creating, at finding new opportunities, at running the systems. Because to be fair, if you're running around all day with people doing your job, it's hard to
do the rest.
Like most other organizations have different departments that do different things.
Mm-hmm.
They have your sales department where you find the opportunity, right? Then you have your other departments. Like we are every department.
Yeah, we are the all-in-one.
We're the all-in-one. So even if you're busy helping people, running a good business, it's difficult unless you have systems or the right people in place to continuously have that coming. And my broker of record always says this, and I love this analogy, is like real estate is clumpy. It's a clumpy business. And you can have a good year next month.
Yeah,
right? Like next month could totally change. You could be having a crap year and now you have a great year.
Yep.
Or you're having a great year and now you're like super scared.
Yep.
So there's less predictability. But like, if I was an agent right now worried about it, listening to this, I would just go back to the 3 basics, which I know we talk about a lot, which is like, okay, well, what's your foundation? Your repeat and referral, right? Everyone kind of knows that. We talk about it, but break it up. Look over your last 2 years of business and how much of it was actually repeat and how much was referral. Because we clump them together. They're not the same. If someone's repeating with you, right?
Yeah.
Right? But if they're referring you and they haven't even repeated yet, they're probably going to work with you again too, right?
Right.
And then it's like, okay, if that's cluster number 1, have that plan of action in place, stay in touch. And then cluster number 2 for me would be alliances, other real estate agents, networking with other agents, mortgage brokers, lawyers, BNI groups, whatever. That would be cluster number 2. And once you've got a decent expected return on cluster 1 and cluster 2, that's when you can go start spending money on online ads and you can spend more time, do the mailers, because that's new business.
Right.
But if you're spending all your time trying to find new and you're forgetting about the people over here that helped you get your business to this point, at some point, it's just not going to add up.
That's right.
So it's like, how can you have a system in place that you have something happening at all times to do these? And at this point in my career, because I'm mostly on the selling side, I educate the buyers, but I'm not taking them out anymore.
Right.
I have time to do the activities to find the new business.
Yeah.
But I don't have the time to service all of it.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
that's why my team's amazing and they can service it and they're happy to service it. But if I was a single agent, truthfully, it would be very, very difficult to run what we're currently running.
Yeah, it is difficult because I am a single agent. I mean, I have an organization, but I'm actually looking at whether I should be, kind of evolving into a team type of business, because I'm just one person. I have 2 kids at home and a
Right.
husband, and, like, they do want me around. So, it's, that's something that, even you have a new little one too. Like, that balance, which there is no such thing, it's an awful
No,
word to even
doesn't
say
exist.
it doesn't exist, but, being able to delegate, right? Like, I have somebody that cleans my house now. It was the best friggin' decision that I ever made. Like, I have no interest in cleaning my house. I keep
Mhm.
it tidy, but I don't wanna clean toilets and I don't wanna mop
Yep.
floors, right? And you have to look at, what are you worth per hour? And if you're not willing to pay if you're not willing to pay somebody else that per hour, or how does that go? I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, it's basically like if you're doing those tasks
You're
that
paying yourself this much per
you're
hour.
paying yourself that much and you're limiting your growth.
And could you pay somebody less
Correct.
to do the same thing? That's
That's
kind
it.
of where I was trying to go with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the mindset you have to have, right? That's how you're gonna build a business. Like
One that
if
lasts
you
a
if you
long
look at
time.
people like laugh at me when I tell them this, but like I don't load my listings. I rarely even write the offers. I
Right.
I don't drop my lock boxes. I don't put up my signs.
You
I
do the
don't
fun stuff.
I create.
You do what you're
I,
good at.
I'm a salesperson. That's my job. And then I have other people that are better at the other things than me anyways that
Mhm.
can help with it. And if you can all win together, that's awesome. And
It's a
listen,
win-win for everybody.
some people want more security and don't want to be in the commissions and like different aspects of the job which you could help them with,
Right.
where some people want to go all in and go all out and have that risk reward, because real estate certainly has no ceiling, but there's no floor either. Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
forget to tell you that part.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually doing a career day on November 3rd, because I feel like I'm attracting so many people, like organically asking, like, how do I get into real estate? It looks like you're doing so amazing. And like, how do I become a realtor? And it's like, well, first of all, I'll tell you it is fun. And second of all, I will tell you it is not all sunshine and rainbows. And so I'm like, I'm just going to do a seminar on a career in real estate so that I could just set them straight on what to expect and what it's all about. I mean, it's a very rewarding career. Like, it's amazing. But you also have to have the right personality, and you need to, you know what you're getting into. There's not very many success stories like mine where you like essentially are very, very broke starting out and just going on faith, hoping to God that this works out. Like, that's kind of how I started. But
Like
luckily for me, it worked out.
fingers crossed is not a marketing strategy,
Yeah.
right? That's not a business plan. I mean, mindset 100%.
Hmm.
You know, I I like the fact that, like, when I first started, I came in university, I got my degree in something that has nothing to do with real estate. I went all in. I was living in my parents' basement. I refused to rent to live on my own because I didn't want to spend the money on it.
Yeah.
I saved up till I could buy a little condo and I kept my business going. And it's like I was not going to fail.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to allow it to happen. And then when I got introduced to the coaching and talking with other people, I'm like, not only do I not just have to fail, but get by, but I can do something cool here. I can build
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And
That's what I love.
now it's been neat where it's like, I can still run my business and be there for my clients while doing other things that are going to help the agent community as well. And
Hmm.
that's whether doing the podcast or the video course or the other mastermind things that I do,
Right.
because it's giving back. And again, like I didn't do this on purpose, but if I look at, me selling my courses and things like that, the money I make from that is it's nothing compared to the referrals I get from other realtors in my programs.
Right.
So, and again, that wasn't the goal,
Yeah.
but you surround yourself with a lot of other people that are thinking the same way, and your business is probably going to grow.
Yeah, and I will attest to how good Tom's video course is. I've been part of that from the beginning, I think, almost. Amazing course on that. And now you have a YouTube one, which I need to get myself into as well. We did the video course not long ago, which was phenomenal. I don't even know how many pages of notes I wrote, but I, I wrote a ton. I actually want to go back and rewatch the whole
It's available to you. You should have access.
I do. Yeah, I have
Okay.
it starred in my inbox.
Yeah.
But yeah, such an amazing opportunity to take advantage of if you can. My personal opinion is figure out what you want to be really good at, invest in that, and become a master at it, whether it's YouTube or video in general. Like really, when it comes to video, like you are like a master at video, and you can really just monetize on like go on YouTube and Instagram, and like you can just do it all at once, like with this right now, right? It's on all of the platforms. So figure out what you really want to get good at and invest in one thing at a time. I've actually been like, I'm one of those people who like see shiny thing and will take advantage and buy that course and buy this course and do this convention and do that course. What I have learned is do one thing at a time, focus on that, and then go on to the next thing. And if you want to get really good at video and YouTube, this is the guy you want to talk to.
It's funny too. I can attest that because I can see on the back end of my programs, like we have 300 members in that course now, and 20% of people actually go from beginning to end on the online trainings and complete it. 20% of, and everyone paid full price. And there's other advantages to being in it, like the Facebook group. I'm not going to sell it here. You know what I'm saying? But people buy it to know that they have it, and then they'll get there one day and then they never do it, and they get busy and they don't do it. Where I think if you like, I know this is like scary to people, but you turn off your phone for, even right now, my phone's turned off. I feel such a calming over myself right now, because I know if I left this on, it would be in my head the whole time. Go to like a little solo vacation for yourself, rent a little cottage or something for 2 days, turn your phone off, forward it to your office, have someone cover for you, and sit there and go learn the hell out of something for 2 days. And then you're going to come out of it being like, it'll
be so much more beneficial than trying to do like 5 and 10 minutes each day, because you've got other things on your mind and it's not going to actually sink in.
Totally. Because it's all right here in front of us. You can talk to many, many people that will tell you exactly what to do. It's just up to you to go do it. And not that it was easy before, but if you had some traction and systems the last 2 years, like, of course you had your best year ever. Of course you did, because there was 25% more sales and prices were up 35%. Of course, right? It's not going to be like that anymore. And you're going to have to put yourself in positions around the right people and have the mindset that like, it's going to be okay as long as you look at your behavior. And the last thing I'll say, just to give people some peace of mind, if you're willing to put in the work, you will find success. And I've never gone through like an economic downturn really in my business, right? It just hasn't happened. I haven't been selling long enough, right? And even 2008 wasn't really the same here. Prices are dropping faster now than they did then, because then it was more like scarcity of like just less people didn't know what to do, but prices didn't really drop a lot.
Right.
But you go back to 1989, which was like the Ontario year of crash. BC was like 80s. In 1989, at the beginning of the peak coming down and dropping off 40%, at that moment in time, the population of the GTA was 3.5 million people. And there was 44,000 transactions that still happened that year. Because people move, people pass away, people get married, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
People are going to move in any market, right?
Yeah.
And just to give some context now, we're probably going to end this year at like 85,000 sales with a population of 7 million.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be opportunity, but it ain't going to fall in your lap anymore.
Yeah. It's not going to be easy anymore. You actually have to be very good at your job, and you got to want to be good at it.
And you got to talk people out of stuff if it's not the right time.
Yep. Yeah.
Like,
and people will appreciate that honesty.
They'll refer the hell out of you.
Do the right thing. Okay. 2 final questions. Quick answer questions.
Yeah.
What has been the biggest contributor to your success, do you believe?
Scheduling.
Okay. And I'm sure we could go on and on about that, but we've been on here long. And then the second one is, 2 more. Best advice you've ever been given, favorite best book.
Business book?
Business book, yeah, I guess.
There's a book called Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business by Gino Wickman.
That is so good.
where it's like the entrepreneurial operating system, right? Where our
Mhm.
phones have operating systems, our computers. Why doesn't your business, right? Having
Yes.
the right people in the right seats. That is a lot. It's a lot of work needs to be put in if you want to run that structure in your business. But I'd say for any business person, that's probably a good book to read.
Yep.
And the best piece of advice was the other question.
Yeah, best piece of advice you feel that you've ever been given. Doesn't have to be real estate related, just can be in general.
Yeah, I mean, your energy goes on what you focus on, right?
Yep.
So if you focus on things being really bad or that person's doing better than you, your energy goes there and it's exhausting.
Mhm.
But if you focus on finding opportunity and being a good human being and helping people, and like I'm listing a condo on Thursday from a guy that 2 years ago called me because he wanted to get his real estate license. And I gave him all the information, chat with him for an hour. He's like, I remember you. I want you to come sell my place. He didn't end up getting into real estate.
Right.
So like
Building that relationship.
things aren't a waste of time.
Yeah.
You just never know. I mean, again, you have to be scheduled with it. You
Yes.
can't let it take over the other time.
Right.
But yeah, I just think like your energy is going to go for what you're thinking about. Think
Yeah.
positive things. It's very easy to be negative.
Yeah, it is. Affirmations is a great one.
Totally.
Affirmations are amazing. Well, Tom, I really do appreciate your time. I think that there was a lot of golden nuggets given here, and I think anybody listening or tuning in will be able to take some of this stuff and essentially put it into their business today and be able to make a difference. So thank you so much, and we'll have you on again sometime.
Thank you so much for having me. That was awesome.
Thank you.